Welcome to the Pool Nation podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host. With over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus. With his co-host, the fastest netter in the West, John Chikalis, and Zach, the pool boy Nicholas.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pool Nation Live podcast, the podcast with myself, your host, Edgar De Jesus. And yes, I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo, along with John, JJ Flawless, the fastest hitter in the West, and the famous Zach, the pool boy Nicholas. Guys, we closed off 2020 yesterday, and I think everybody is happy about that. I think it was time to say goodbye to that crazy year. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to start 2021 and see what that year has to offer. Guys and girls, in this podcast, we want to talk about the 8+ reasons why the pool industry is a great industry. And I think it's a great way to start the new year by talking about those. So we will go into detail on each one and see if you agree. I want to welcome everyone to the live podcast, the podcast where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. But before we get started today, I want to thank our sponsors for this podcast, Ultimate Pool Tools and Pool Invoice. We want to thank them for their continued support. Zach, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to wish everyone a happy new year.
John, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Likewise, I'd like to wish everybody a happy new year, and I'm just very, very thankful 2020 is over. It's been quite the ride for us, and I'm hoping that we're coming down the mountain now, and we're going to be. I mean, it's just been such a whirlwind of a year, good and bad. But as a whole, as a country, I think we're thankful we get to put 2020 behind us, and that we're going to be looking into the future, and hopefully 2021 is going to be much better for us.
Agreed, 100%. Hey, Zach, a little bird came and told me that today is Mama Flawless's birthday.
Oh my God!
You hear that?
She turned 23, I think, today or something like that.
Man,
and happy birthday!
Yeah, Mama, if you're out there, happy. I know you're out there. I just saw you, Mama. Happy birthday, big time. And then, Zach, did you hear the other rumor?
Oh my God!
Anniversary?
When
did they tell you the same date? It was yesterday?
Yeah, it was yesterday. So anniversary, 19 wonderful years. We celebrated it on December 31st. I won't kind of get into the story, but the reason why we married on the 31st was because I'm sure Mama can tell you, but I wanted to claim her as all year as on my taxes back in the day. So, it's a true story. So that's the reason why we did it on the 31st, because I got the benefit of being married on my taxes, but it was, it's been amazing. So 19 years, beautiful years. And then of course today is her birthday. So, I love you, Mama.
Yep. Mama, happy birthday. John, happy anniversary. It's kind of smooth of you to kind of keep that quiet, because I think Zach and I would have blasted that out everywhere. Right, Zach?
Yeah, no. And again, happy birthday, happy anniversary. Congrats on 19 years. I think that's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible. Incredible, John. So, all right, guys. John, I apologize by putting you in the hot seat there. So, guys, what a crazy 2021. I'm going to have to say that I'm glad it's behind us. 2020 is one of those that's going to be remembered forever, and our kids are going to talk about it. It changed our lives, but I think it's important to always look for the good things, even in moments of challenging times. So, guys, at the end of today's podcast, instead of me asking you for your final thoughts, what I'm going to ask you is what you were grateful for in 2020. So let's get into it. I think the topic for today's podcast is a great one for starting the year. I really want to talk about why our industry is such a great industry. And I thought today being the first of the year is the best day to talk about it, because a new year gives us the ability to pause, refresh, and kind of set new goals. So Guys, when I talk about these points, I want you to look at these points and compare them to any business, not just the pool industry, but compare them into any business that you can think about and compare and see why our industry is such a solid industry. So what I want to do is let me start with point number one, and that is income potential. And what I want you to do is if you look at any business, you always want to look at the business potential that it has for you.
Yeah, and that's something that everyone should do when they're looking to start a business. I mean, any business, period.
Yeah, I agree, John. What that income potential is for that business is going to be really important. And really what you want to do is try to figure out where your income potential is going to max out. So, for example, you can talk about, hey, I'm going to buy a donut shop. And really, what is the income potential for that donut shop? At what point will that kind of cap out? Or if you look at any other business, right? You could look at, Starbucks, you could look at, any other type of business, but really look at what your income potential is for that business.
Yeah, you have to look at it and make sure you know where you're going to max out. And in that example you talk about, Edgar, what is the income a donut shop is going to have? So if maybe you have a good year, you can get a salary, but is that business going to be able to grow sales, or is it going to max out at some point? And you need to consider what the steps are once you max out. For example, if you max out at your donut shop, then the next steps might be having to acquire a new commercial location, hire new employees for that additional location, purchase kitchen equipment and a POS system, and so on. In the pool industry, you can max out, and the next step would be to acquire a truck, hire a cleaner, purchase some maintenance equipment, and now you've increased your capacity to take on more accounts.
Correct. Yeah. And that's a great point, Zach. It's really, you look at that donut shop and you might get that salary, you might max out, but then your next step is you really are going to have to go and get another location and kind of rebuild almost like you're almost starting like a second business, right? Because you're kind of extending there. And there's a lot of costs associated with that. And we'll get into that. But if you look at the pool industry, your income potential can really be in the millions, because you can service 50 pools and make, $60,000, $70,000, whatever it is. You can have 80 pools and make $100,000, or you can set up a company that services, 800 pools and make over $1 million. So, you want to look at where you're going to max out. And, this was on top of my list because our industry allows anybody the ability to make good money and to be able to continue to grow. Really, your income potential is just completely, based on what you want it to be. So point number two, I think we need to talk about why it's such a solid industry is profit.
Yeah, this is Mama's favorite by far, right? And I think all of us. So as far as what is profit, right? And this is real simple. This is the one that we talk about all the time. Profit is what you get to keep at the end of the day. And I hear this with pool guys all the time, where they say they make $100K a year or $50K or whatever the number is. And let's say it's $100K, but how much of that do you get to keep of that $100K? If you look at restaurants and you look at why they fail, most of it is because of profits. They have to pay rent, they have to pay utilities, they have to pay someone to order the food, someone to cook the food, someone to serve the food, a hostess to sit people. You have a business that requires a lot of people to run it, and it eats away at those profits. Let's say that you buy a liquor store and you make $100,000, but your expenses are 70%. That means that you only get to keep $30,000 out of that $100,000. So when you look at the pool industry, right, and the potential of pool profits, that can be as high as up to 70% or sometimes even more. And that means for every dollar that you make, you get to keep 70 cents out of it. And that's insane. If you service your pools by yourself, your biggest expense is going to be chemicals and gas. So for me, when looking at this, it's really hard to beat the pool industry when it comes down to profit margins. Even if you guys are working, even if you have guys that are working for you and you're charging the correct rates, you can still make up to 30 or 40% profit, guys. Those are great numbers. The pool industry can be very profitable. One thing you need to really think about is what's your goal? Is it going to be a good living for yourself? Are you just going to be humble being by yourself as a one-poler? Is that enough for your family? Or do you want to grow? And do you want to, gain 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 accounts and then expand your business? I mean, the potential is incredible, and you can achieve massive wealth if you play your cards right.
Yeah, and we talk about it all the time, looking at your goals, and you really want to sit down and plan it out, because if your goal is to make a really good living for yourself, you could do that quickly in the pool industry with low overhead. But when you look at the income potential, it's got a cap. And I say this because there are only so many pools you can clean, or only so many repairs that you can get done in a day when it's just you. Your overhead is lower and your profits will be higher. However, on the flip side, if you want to try to build that massive wealth, you're going to have to increase your operational capacity. And this obviously will require an increase in overhead, because you're going to need more resources to get that extra work done. You're going to need things like more office and warehouse space, more vehicles, more team members, more equipment, and the list goes on. And as you obtain more of those items, there are additional costs that come along with those. You have things like insurance, vehicle payments, higher building costs, marketing costs, and so on. The other thing you always need to plan for, and this is a big one, is your unforeseen costs. The more moving parts you have, the more likely you are to encounter unforeseen costs. And an unforeseen cost can be things like a truck breaking down, an auto accident, and so on. So increasing your operational capacity is generally going to lower your profit percentage. That being said, 20% of $1.5 million is a much higher number than 70% of $125,000. So again, you really need to put some thought into what your end game is.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. So John, in your years in retail, have you seen such great profit margins?
Oh, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's the beautiful thing about the pool service industry. And it's a kind of good and bad thing. It's one of the things we kind of struggle with. But, the potential, and there is no ceiling. You get in what you put in with the pool industry. And the profits that you can make just doing it on your own, taking care of 50, 60, 70, 80, or even up to 100 pools, however your business model is, you can live a very good life. But like I said, the great thing about the pool industry is that sky's the limit, and you can potentially build an empire. And as in retail, as far as like what profits we brought in, we were doing like $30-some million a year in business, and we were lucky to see 8% profit, right? GOP, right? Or NOP, net operating profit at the end of the day. And that was doing really good. So in the pool service industry, if you're only bringing in 10% or 20% profit, then you're obviously doing something wrong. But the potential is huge, because when it comes down to servicing, you're paying for it's basically your time and your knowledge. And the chemical expenses, if you keep your chemistry right, are very limited. And just like you said, Edgar, the biggest expense is going to be just chemicals and gas.
Yeah, and I look back at my days in hotels, and we kind of covered a different range of things, right? We did the hotel side, we did the food and beverage side, we did the meeting space side, we did, the convention center, the concession stands, all that kind of stuff. And I sit back and I look at it, and I remember going, through all these numbers, and you're talking, millions and millions of dollars, but the profit percentage was so small. And so obviously you've got the volume. So because you have the volume, you're going to be making, millions of dollars, but your profit percentage really wasn't that big. It's kind of almost like in the retail, John. And, some of our holding companies had restaurants, and the restaurant side was, always a struggle, because there's so much that has to go into running that restaurant that people don't think about. Kind of like what you were talking about, John. You talk about people, you need a server, you need somebody to order the food. So you're paying all that before you're even selling food. So, you've got this big cost of operating that business. So I look at the pool business, and it's just mind-boggling to me. And I know there's a stigma in between, being a pool guy and all that kind of stuff, but it really is a business where your profit percentages are through the roof. And it's just amazing to me. I mean, for you to have employees, kind of like what Zach was saying, and be able to do pools and do all that, and still be able to kind of hit that 30%, that's huge, because you look at all these big other companies, and they're, like you said, it's 8%, 10%, 12%. But the pool industry really allows you a great advantage when it comes to the profit percentage. So that's why it was kind of on the top of my list of why it's such, a great industry. And guys, if you're thinking about getting into any business, so if you are thinking about buying a donut shop or an auto repair shop or any of that kind of stuff, take a look at these points and put that business into each one of these points, and you're going to see why this industry is such a solid industry. So let's go to number 3, because I want to talk about startup costs. And that was a big one for me when I started. This is something that you're going to need to look at when you're buying a business, and that's the startup cost. And I'm not talking about the cost of buying the business, because on either one of them, you're going to have to buy the business. You're going to have that money. But what I'm talking about is how much money you need to jump in and buy and operate that business. So, supplies, tools, chemicals, all that kind of stuff. Let's say that you buy a pizza shop and you're going to do a startup cost. Well, you're going to have to buy ovens. You're going to have to buy registers. You're going to have to buy fixtures, right? You're going to have to buy tables. You're going to have to buy all that thing just to be able to start up your business. Or the same thing, let's say that you buy a coffee shop. Well, you have to buy these expensive coffee machines, right? Zach, what does one of those big, nice coffee machines cost?
It's in the thousands. I mean, I think I want to say for like some of those coffee stands, you're talking $40,000 or $50,000 in machines and equipment to get going on it, and sometimes even more.
That's just mind-boggling. So you're going to start a coffee shop and you can spend $40,000 just on a coffee maker, just to get started. So you talk about starting up that business, and it's going to cost you to buy it. And then it's going to cost you to, have all this stuff, buy all this stuff for the startup. So if you look at the pool business, our startup costs are very low. Your equipment is minimal. So you talk about, poles, nets, chems. There's some things out there like a hammerhead or any of that you can buy, but that's not something that you have to have at the beginning. It's something that you can acquire. So really your startup costs are going to be minimal starting in the pool industry.
Yeah, this is actually what made us look at the pool industry. Like you said, it takes very little investment to get going. And as many of you know, we started in the industry only doing equipment repair. So we didn't have any money to do any marketing. And what we ended up doing was subcontracting with these home warranty companies. And how that works is they would automatically start sending us these jobs. So a customer would call in, say, my pump's not working. And then from there, the warranty company would send us that, and then we would go out and do it. And so all we needed was a vehicle, tools, and our license. But I will say we didn't make any money. And I would put that more on the fact that we had absolutely no idea what we were doing as far as what we should be charging. I went through an old invoice book the other day that I found, and it made me so sad looking back. But, we learned along the way, and we were able to improve that. And we thought we were making it because at the end of the day, we were able to buy some Gatorades, get a snack, put a tank of gas in there, and pay rent in our apartments. And, we thought we were winning. So like you said, if we compare this to other types of businesses like the pizza shop, you can get going in the pool industry without having to spend hardly any money at all.
John, do you remember how much you spent when you started in the pool industry to start up?
I think it was around, it was a little different. So I pieced mine together because remember, it took me about a year before I started servicing pools. So from the minute I decided to start, as far as like education, learning, I would pick up equipment and buy certain things. I spent a little bit more than most when I first started because I bought the power vac and I wanted to get like the best of the best and that kind of stuff. But in reality, you can get away with about $1,000 or so and have everything you pretty much need to kind of get going, the bare essentials. I want to touch up a little bit on startup costs, and I don't want to mislead anybody or make anybody think that, hey, this is like the easiest industry to get into, or anybody can do it, because, that's one of the things we're trying to kind of change, and, as far as like education and stuff. But the biggest startup cost in the pool industry, and this is why I love it, is it's time, and it's how much you invest in yourself. It's not so much money that you have to put into it, right? Which is what we're trying, the point we're trying to land here. It's that, if you invest the time in yourself in gaining knowledge and understanding it, and knowing what you're doing, that is the commodity. That is what you're selling as a pool service guy, right? Or gal. You're not selling, I clean your pool. You're selling, I have the ability and the knowledge to manage and to take care of your pool and to keep you safe, your family safe, and keep your equipment running well so it doesn't cost you money in the long term. That's the difference. And if you are that type of person, or if you think that you can kind of just get into this industry, I can get into it for $1,000 and I'm going to go out there and start cleaning pools. I'm telling you, you're going to fail miserably, right? You need to have that. You got to have that want and that passion, and when we talk about sky's the limit, it's only in what limits you is your ability or your want and your drive to better yourself, because there's so many things you can learn as a pool service provider or, maintaining pools or repairing. So I just kind of want to jump in. I just wanted to clarify that, at least on my part, saying that, hey guys, the startup cost is immense if you want to do it right, when it comes down to the time and effort and energy you have to put into understanding what you're doing, because there's a lot of things you can do that it's not as easy as just going there and dumping chemicals in a pool. You can mess things up. But if you put your time and effort into it, you can be extremely successful at a minimal capital cost of starting up the business.
I'm going to agree with you 100%. I think the biggest thing that people need to understand is this is going to be a business like any other business. And if you're not willing to work and to put the sweat and tears into it, then it's not the right business for you. Everybody needs to understand that. I think a lot of people think, I want to get into something that's easy, where I don't have to work a lot, where I don't have to do all that. I haven't found that. I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, I could be wrong, but I don't see that exists. I mean, anything that you work on that you want to grow, you have to put in the long hours, you have to put in the sweat, you have to, learn from the mistakes. But, we're talking about that capital cost. And I go back to when I started, John, and mine was exactly $1,100, and I didn't buy a hammerhead or any of that kind of stuff. I just bought, the stuff that I needed to start up. But I was looking at different businesses for me to get into. And a lot of it was the issue with this capital startup, right? With how much I was going to have to invest in all these startup costs. So, the industry allows you to be able to come in and with a low startup, be able to start that business. And then what I did, guys, is as I went along and I started to make money, then I started to buy those things like the hammerhead and a lot more of the tools that I needed and all that kind of stuff. So it really allows you to be able to do that. So let's go to the next one that I think is important. And that is that it's an industry that is easy to learn. So, just like any other business, obviously you have to learn that business. So, you really can look at, if you bought a hotel, and that's kind of my background, so I'll talk about that. If you buy a hotel, there's going to be a lot of moving parts, right? And I talk about this all the time with wearing different hats. You're really going to need to know about sales and marketing and become a professional in sales and marketing. And gosh, that could just be one business. Doing sales could just be one type of business, right? But then you have to learn about food and beverage, and you have to learn everything about food and beverage. You get into meeting space, and there's, that's a business within itself. So if you compare our business, and I don't mean that it's easy to learn, that you can walk in and, like John was saying, you just kind of throw some stuff in and you walk out and you're done. But what I mean is, there's the areas of concentration of your business are going to be kind of categorized into, like, let's say, obviously water chemistry or repairs. And so those segments are going to be a lot smaller than trying to go into, we'll pick Zach again, the Starbucks, right? You have to learn how to operate this machine. You have to learn how to obviously make all these different coffees. You need to learn how to, market your business. You've never done that before. So the pool industry, if you do buy a route, you're going to jump in, and really your focus is going to be, the water chemistry, the repairs, and it's going to be a lot less than a lot of other businesses with a lot more moving parts.
For sure.
Yeah. And, one thing I would recommend is that, like you were saying, in the hotel example, you have all of these, they're like basically individual businesses combined into one. And the pool industry could have a lot of that. And so one thing I would recommend is that you focus on one or two services at a time and really learn how to successfully perform them. There's so many different services you can offer, such as maintenance, repairs, stain ID and removal, bead blasting, remodeling, and on and on. One mistake people tend to make, including us, is that they want to be the company that can do it all. And in a perfect world, that is a perfect company. And no one wants to tell their customer no, or that's not something we do, and turn that service down. And the issue can be that instead of having a few services that you master and you can deliver on, and you can spend that time learning those things and delivering that excellent quality, well, what you end up having is a lot of services that you are decent at or you're not good at all. So in my opinion, you should start with one or two and build on that as time goes on. And the other thing is, and we've said it time and time again, there are so much more resources out there today for you to be able to get that training and that information and really become a self-taught individual. It's not so much you have to, go out to a school and spend 4 years getting this education. You can sit at home, you can find these resources, and you can put in that time to really hone in those skills.
And I want to kind of jump in, kind of what you were saying too, Edgar, Zach. It's not, you can get into the pool service industry and just do servicing pools, right? Cleaning pools and chemistry. You don't have to worry about repairs at first. You don't have to worry about those other things. And you have one thing you need to learn and understand. And in some way, it's forgiving, when it comes down to the pool. You have to mess it up really bad and leave it messed up for a long time to really get some damage, done when it comes down to a body of water. But as far as like learning chemistry and the basics and stuff, that's kind of where we're getting at when it comes down to learning. If you're willing to learn and understand how to do it the right way, it's easy to pick up on and it becomes natural. And you're just going to a different environment now. So it's still a body of water. So you go from one pool to another backyard, you still have a body of water, right? And the chemistry is going to be the same when you look at it and how you need to take care of the pool. So I think that's kind of what we're getting at when it comes down to, you don't have to know everything when you get into the pool industry, kind of like going to Starbucks or into a restaurant, something like that. You can't really make a restaurant and say, I only serve one meal and that's it. And that's all I can do. You have to be able to learn a lot of different things, a lot of different recipes in order to be successful. And you have to be very competitive with other restaurants around you. Or with the pool industry, when you're there, or when you start off, if you focus on water chemistry and how to manage water and you do that really, really well, then you can start branching off. And I think that's what Zach's talking about, saying, look, you can be that's the saying, you can be a jack of all trades and a master of none, right? So, and you want to master that one aspect of it. And then you can start branching off and saying, okay, now I'm going to start doing repairs, or now I'll start doing this and that and this. And that's how you grow and become successful. When you try to take on everything all at once is when it can become overwhelming and when it can actually hurt you and discourage you.
Yep, you just kind of hit right on that point, and that is, the education part of what we do. And you talk about water chemistry, you can go and you can take the classes and you can take the courses, and once you do that, you now know how to be able to manage, your business. And like John was saying, you can just do service at the beginning, and that's what I did at the beginning, is really kind of focus on that service side. So it's very different than a lot of other businesses where you can't just go and take a water chemistry class and now you know a lot, right? You have to learn with those businesses, those practices, those things. But then a lot of it is going to be that you're still going to have the experience with other people, whether you're trying to sell, meeting space, or you're trying to sell a hotel room or whatever it is. The learning curve there is a lot more complicated than it is for the service industry.
For sure.
So, hey guys, let's take a quick break and take a word from our sponsors. And then when we come back, John, I want to jump into, I think, which was probably one of the biggest things that I looked at when I was looking to start my own business. So we'll talk about guaranteed income when we come back on the other side.
The Hyper Pole from Ultimate Pool Tools is a pool care pole designed by pool professionals for pool professionals, featuring precision-crafted carbon fiber and stainless steel construction. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools. Introducing Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is pool billing software that was created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It was developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice was built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add recurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all of your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer's profile, and it's all at your fingertips. It's currently in beta phase, so anyone can use it for free. Just go to poolinvoice.com and request an invitation at the bottom of the page. Pool Invoice was made for you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we are talking about the 8+ reasons why the pool industry is such a great industry. We're talking to Zach and John. John, I want to talk about the next point, which I think was a big one for me, and that was looking for a business that was going to give me some guaranteed income.
Yeah, man, this is a no-brainer. What businesses can you buy where you have guaranteed income? If you buy a business, how do you know how much money you're going to bring in each month? If you buy Starbucks or a shoe store, you can guess how much money you're going to be bringing in, but will you really know exactly how much will come in? I mean, are you going to know how many people are going to walk through that door? You really don't know. You can't promise yourself or put in the bank that I'm going to sell $5,000 worth of coffee. In hotels, for example, you would do a budget, right? And you would estimate how much money you were going to make, but we never really knew how much we were going to make at the end of the day, right? In the whole hotel industry, right, Edgar?
Yep.
So
and
as far as
for the hotels, it was exactly like that, John. So we would do the budget, and we would say, hey, this month we're going to have, we're going to sell 11,000 room nights. And so you say that you guess that you're going to have 11,000 people stay at the hotel that month. And so based off of that, you would kind of go and say, okay, I need this many room attendants to clean the rooms. I need this many people to check in. I need this many people in the restaurant. But that was a guess. And then all of a sudden, you had 9,000 people stay instead of the 11,000. So you have this budget, you have this expectation, right? You're trying to figure out what that income is going to be, but it's really kind of a guessing game. It's you put a budget together and you kind of look at your history and kind of what you've done. And I think in coffee shops, it would be the same thing. People would be like, hey, on an average every month, we sell, 5,000 cups of coffee. Well, what happens if you hit the holidays and people are on vacation, and then that month you really only sold 3,000 cups of coffee? So you really don't know what your guaranteed income is going to be in a lot of those businesses. And that's something that I really looked at. And I think us as people, we tend to do that, right? We want to be safe. We want to know how much money we're going to have coming in. So that, I think, is a big one for our industry.
Yeah, and that's why the pool industry is a service industry, right? And you're providing a service, then you know exactly how much money you're going to make every single month. So look, guys, it's easy. If you service 80 pools, right, and you're charging $100 or whatever you're charging, you're going to make $8,000 a month, and that's guaranteed. That's going to happen. Now, of course, it's part of business. You might lose an account here, you might lose an account here. People sell a house, move off, and that number might fluctuate little by little, every single month. But you're also taking on new accounts too that help compensate for that. But at the end of the day that if you have 100 accounts and you're selling them at $100 a piece or $150 a piece, there's $15,000 a month that that you're going to be bringing in, and that is before any additional services like filter cleanings, which you need to do, or salt cell cleanings, or minor repairs, or whatever, But that's the beauty of guaranteed income. It's not that every single day, like for Starbucks or hotel industry or whatever. And you're going, okay, and you have this pandemic that hits, right? And you just don't know what happens, right? It's not, all of a sudden people can't shop, or people can't go out, or people can't go there, or, they decided to close the street in front of your business because they're doing repairs, and now people can't get there. So they're going to the next coffee shop, right? So there's a lot of different things that affect you when you have like a storefront like that, and you're relying on people that are coming in that you just can't guarantee that they'll be walking in. So that's why the service industry is such a beautiful thing, and taking care of pools or servicing pools is great when it comes down to guaranteed income.
And if you look at like how we started doing the repairs only, you can't really forecast that. And so, Leslie came to me and was like, we need to do maintenance. And when I was really looking at it, it's it's a recurring service. And if you do a good job, the lifetime value of these accounts can be extremely long. I mean, I've talked to people that they tell me stories about this pool's been on route for 30 years and their dad was taking care of that pool before, they were even born. I've talked to builders whose, family inherited businesses and their dad built the pool in the 60s and here they are doing a remodel X amount of years later. So as long as you're doing a good job, the lifetime value of these customers can be so long. And going back to the donut shop example, we have our donut shop that we go to periodically. And the key word there is periodically. And they have awesome service, awesome prices, and awesome food. However, I don't go there and spend money on a weekly basis. And as much as I like that business, it may be another 6 months before I go there again. Yep. So like you were saying, it's a budget and guess model. Whereas your pool is going to, your pool accounts are going to need that consistent maintenance, making it more guaranteed. And it makes it much easier to forecast your earnings potential.
Yes. And when I started looking at it and tried to figure out what I wanted to do, I was kind of going through all these points. And this is probably, I would say, one of the biggest ones, because you want to go into a business. And I think when you're going to start any business, your biggest thing is you're afraid, right? Am I going to make money? Am I not going to make money? How do I know that money's going to come in? And I think that's a human nature thing, to feel safe knowing that money is coming in. And this one was really a no-brainer. It's like you can have that route, and whether you buy it or you build it, you're guaranteed that money. You know that you do that service and you're going to get paid every month. So this was a really big one for me, for the guaranteed income. Guys, let's talk about the next one, and that was cash flow. So you're looking at starting any business, and looking at all these different businesses, and what am I going to be able to buy into or start my own business. And so one of the things that you need to look at is you need to look at cash flow. And we talked about this on other podcasts with regards to what cash flow is. And guys, you're going to hear us talking about this term all the time, because as we're trying to get you guys to push your business to the next level, cash flow is crucial, right? You have to have that cash flow in order to be able to operate. So the question is, if you have a business and you sell something, how fast does that money come in? For example, if you own a company that sells clothes to stores, so let's say that you make clothes and you sell it to a retail, what you need to do is you need to buy all the stuff. You need to have a designer create the clothes. You need to obviously make the clothes, and you need to ship it to the stores. And then what happens is you're going to send them the clothes, and they're going to give you a net 30, right? Which means that, they'll pay you in about 30 days, which, could be 45 days before you get your money. And that's for the clothes that you sold. But you have to remember that you've already put money out to pay the designer, to pay the people that are, creating the clothes, for the materials, all that kind of stuff. So you've already put all that money out. You're really not getting your money until way after that. And in the swimming pool industry, you service your pool, and based on your billing, you start to get the payments within that week. You're always going to have customers that pay right away. We all know that we're always going to have customers that, are slow at paying or any of that. But for the most part, you're going to be able to get that money coming in right away. So I used to bill on the 5th, and I had a whole bunch of customers that I knew by the 10th, I would already be getting their checks in. You can really set your business up, and we've talked about it, and Zach's talked about, obviously setting up 2 different dates for the billing. And then that way that cash is constantly flowing in so that you can make sure that you can run that business. In our industry, you can do your billing, and if you do it at the beginning of the month before you service the pools, then you're going to start to get that in. Now, obviously, if you wait and service the pool for the entire month and then bill, then you're going to be in that same situation where you're waiting on the backtrack to get that money. But the cash flow is going to allow you to operate your business. And as you need chemicals and gas and supplies, you're going to have that money. And the pool industry is perfect because it allows you to have that constant cash flow if you set your business up properly.
And I talk to a lot of people, and one of the most common things that I hear is I'm behind on my billing, or, I got to get around to that, or I'm 6 weeks out. And I think this is like the billing portion is such a key piece that needs to have more weight put on it. And when we added our maintenance to our service offering, we put a lot of thought into the cash flow and how we were going to bill. And, you mentioned some of them. I'll give you guys examples of what we do. We bill prior to starting service. And what that means is the customer pays us for service prior to us performing it. And we could do this because of the reputation we have built. And that's why it's so important to have that good brand, that good reputation, be generating those reviews and be delivering on that quality service. And a benefit of doing it that way is if a customer doesn't pay, we'll generally perform one service and then we'll suspend their account. If they're a really good customer, we know they'll get back to us and pay us. We'll keep going, but it protects us from doing all of this extra work and then never getting paid for it. And another thing we do is we don't accept cash or check. And I know a lot of people get worried about processing fees and all that, but you have to think about how valuable your time is and how important that cash flow is. And again, I hear all these people telling me I'm 6 weeks behind, I'm 4 weeks behind, I'm 2 months behind, whatever it is. If you have a card on file, you're going to pay a percentage, but you're going to protect yourself from that and save yourself time in the long run. And then, like you mentioned, we do process payment on 2 different dates. And we have our first billing cycle, the 1st through the 5th. Our second billing cycle is the 15th through the 20th. And our ultimate goal on that is to have 4 billing cycles per month. So each week of the month, we want to be billing a different section of our maintenance route. And these things have helped us tremendously with our cash flow. And even talking about our repairs, we charge a 60% deposit on any repair over $400. And again, your reputation, your brand, all of those things will allow you to be able to do that. Because if you don't have any markings, you're kind of unknown, your service is mediocre, that customer is going to have a hard time giving that money up front. Again, these things have helped us out a ton. I put a lot of thought into this, and it's definitely stuff that everyone should put some focus on and work on.
Yeah, especially with the billing, Zach, you take a look at it, and I see the same thing that you see. I talk to a lot of guys, and they're like, "Oh, we're behind on our billing." And you talk to them about setting up auto pay, and they're like, we don't want to pay that certain percentage, whatever it is, the 2.3, 2.7%. And I'm like, but wouldn't that take away a lot of the headache for you? You're going to spend 2-3 days doing billing. You're stressed out. You're behind. You can't then be too aggressive with your customers that are a little bit slow to pay because they're going to do the same thing. Well, you're billing me 2 months late. What do you expect? They're going to have that expectation. But when you sit down and you do the math, it's a no-brainer. It's like, why would you put yourself into that situation?
And another thing is that it's definitely a pain point for your customer. You are causing a pain point for your customer. No one, I have lawn service. I expect to be billed every month. I'm not always thinking about it. And I would be frustrated as a customer if 6 months later or 3 months later or whatever it is, they hit me with this big bill that I'm not budgeting for. And that just lowers your quality of service. So having that consistency, being on top of it, you're doing your customer a better service by doing that.
Yeah. John, in the retail, how does it work? Obviously hotels, and that's where I came from, but it was everything is paid for after the service. I'm assuming in retail, you're really kind of getting the same thing, right?
So you're talking about when we're like doing installations and stuff like that?
No, I'm talking about the retail industry is one where...
Well, with the manufacturers, I know when we bought product from the manufacturers, it was a big box company. So they would give us 90-day terms. So we bought it, we warehoused it in our distribution. We got it, we distributed to our stores. I sold it out of my register, right? And I put it in the bank for 30 days before I had to pay the manufacturer. So it was a little different, and of course, the bigger the company you are, the more flexing you get to do with the manufacturers as far as terms. But I know that smaller retail shops, the most you'll get is you'll have a net 90 before you have to pay back. And even if you don't sell it, you still got to pay it.
So you have 90 days before you're paying for this part? 90 days?
Yeah, that. Well, when you're one of the biggest electronic retailer in the world, right? So you got to do those types of things. So you have that agreement. So literally in my store, I was able to, we had the product, we bought the product, or we had it, we put the PO on, we got it delivered out of distribution, we got it into the stores, I sold it, we were able to put it away, and then we didn't have to pay it. We still had about 30 more days before we had to pay it. That's how quick we turned over product.
But that's crazy, because if you go into a business selling something to a retail shop, you got to put that money out for 90 days.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, to a big stores like that, yeah, for sure.
That's crazy.
And that hurts. They don't want to play ball because they don't want to sit there, They just don't want to sit there. They want the money in the bank collecting interest.
If you're, a small, mid-sized business, you're having to put all that money out for 90 days. That's 3 months before you even get your money back. So you paid your employees, you built the product. So you're talking maybe 4 months, 5 months before you get your money on something that you've sold to a retail company.
And what if that company starts having financial issues in between the time before you receive your money? I mean, you may end up losing that money ultimately. Scary.
Yeah, that's crazy. In hotels, it really wasn't. Hotels, a lot of it is obviously the people check out, so you get paid at the end of their stay. But a lot of the meeting space and the banquet events and all that kind of stuff, you would have a deposit, but then, they would have 30 days after the event to pay. But you have to remember that in a scenario or setup like that, you're having to, pay for, all the food. You're having to pay for all the employees. You're having to pay for, all the costs associated, the audiovisual equipment, all that kind of stuff, the cleaning, the tear down, all that. So you've put out a big chunk of money, and you can, some of those events will go $200,000-$300,000, and you've put all that out front, and then you have to wait for 30, 45 days before you get your money. And in the pool industry, it's just amazing because you're sending out your invoices and you're really going to start to get that cash flow to roll a lot faster. So to me, that was another thing in looking at the pool industry, was really kind of what cash flow was going to have to be able to operate that business. And again, in our industry, something that works really well within our business is obviously that cash flow to be able to operate our businesses.
There was other hidden costs too when you went into business with retail stores like that. When you buy product and you have it, there's like 3 to 5% of it that you have to eat as the manufacturer sending it to the retail store, because we would consider it as a defective product. So automatically, all right, great, you're sending me 1,000 TVs or 100 TVs. 3 or 4 of those TVs are ours for free, because when a return comes in, I don't want to have to eat it and sell it. I need to send it back to you and get full credit for it. And then after that 3% or after that, then we'll start taking the hit. So, it's a dog eat dog world out there when it comes down to like business and retail and that kind of stuff. It's pretty nasty. Or us here, and we talk about like cash flow and billing ahead. And even if, having such low operating costs when you first start, right? And your overhead is so low, especially if you're doing it by yourself, or if you're profiting, if you're doing the route on your own and you can profit 70, 80%, that 20% isn't quite that much for you to be able to fork out for that first month or that second month. So another great reason why the pool industry is such a fabulous industry to get into if you're willing to work for it.
Gotcha. Let me go off topic here for just a second. Let me ask you something. So in the retail side, when you go buy something and it's defective, a lot of the packages will say, please don't return to the store.
Correct.
Why do they do that?
Well, because what they end up doing is when they return it to the store, there's an agreement. So, for instance, it was something called DEVO, what is it used to call it? Defective Equipment Void Operation. So if a TV came to me or a piece of furniture came to me and it was returned, or they said something was wrong with it, automatically I would send that back to that manufacturer, and that manufacturer was required to give me full cost of it back. They want to avoid that and give you that slip, because when you call the manufacturer, that manufacturer is going to send you that product or that missing piece to you free of charge, so that it doesn't go against the numbers. Because all that's so if I'm selling furniture, or if I'm selling a television, or I'm selling a computer, and this brand, but yet I have a 5% return on this brand and only a 2% return on that brand. Those returns are correlate with customer satisfaction, right? And when that person's buying that product, they're not only buying it from that manufacturer, but they're buying it from the company. So if I have a higher return rate on this product, right, I'm causing higher dissatisfaction from our customers. Then when time comes to do negotiations into rebuying in the contracts, the effective price goes up, or maybe I don't do as much business with you, or maybe now you have to give me a higher allotment back on the back end, so that I don't lose as much money down the road. So when the manufacturers give you that option, they want to avoid you returning the product, because if you take it to the store, they're just going to return it. And if they return it, then they lose money. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense.
Yep.
Zach, I know you're probably jumping on your chair because this is the kind of business stuff that you kind of start geeking out on. So I could just see you on the other side, just kind of thinking about it, spinning on your side, how you would try to solve that issue.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So let's jump into the next one, and that is going to be business growth potential. And this one ties a little bit into, obviously, your income potential, but it's almost like pH and alkalinity, right? They're kind of correlated with each other. And the business growth potential is how much you can grow that business. And like I just said, it goes in hand with, income potential. So if you purchase this business, how much are you going to be able to grow that business? Or can you open two of them? Can you have a chain of your businesses? So if I go back to what Zach was saying about the donut shop, my growth potential on the donut shop is going to be limited to a certain amount. And then from there, what I would have to do is I would have to open up a different location, a different place. The pool industry is one where you could be as small as you want or as big as you want. I know people that are retired that only service 15 pools that keep themselves busy, but I know guys that have pool companies that service close to 1,000 pools, and that revenue is in the millions. And think about it, even if they just keep 30% of that profit, that's a lot of money and a great return.
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier, going back to the donut shop. It's like starting a whole new business over. Like, you have to take a snapshot of that and you have to start that over, where in the pool industry, it's more of an add-on, right? You got another truck, another guy, and you get going. So the growth potential is huge. And, what I love about it is it's up to us on where we want to take our businesses. If you're comfortable with 15 pools or 50 pools or whatever that is, and that's all you need, you could do that. Or if you want to drive, there are companies out there with 10,000 plus pools on route, and you can get there. So it's just amazing to me how flexible it is and where you can go with it.
A lot of the guys that I talk to is you'll see some guys that go, you know what, I really don't want the headache of employees. That's not the type of thing that I want. I just want to do my 80 pools. I make enough money. I'm happy. And then you have the other guys, you got the guys like Zach that says, I'll build till I can no longer build, right? Until I can't manage anymore, and continue to grow that. So it really allows you to have the growth potential that you want, to really kind of the sky's the limit.
I have a confession to make, and I'm a little weirded out here because you guys keep talking about donut shops. So Janie can attest to this, but before I started our company,
did you own a donut shop?
I was contemplating opening up a donut shop, So to hear you guys talk about this is kind of freaking me out. Right? So
you made the right choice, John.
I did. I'm so glad I did not open up a donut shop. You know what I mean? I don't even know what I was thinking, but I was just sitting there racking my brain trying to figure out what can we do? And it was like startup costs, right? And what do we need to do? And, the cost to make it, because I grew up in the restaurant business. My father and mother, when I was a kid, they owned restaurants out in the LA, Los Angeles area. Not restaurants like we own multiple, but one restaurant at a time. Right. And it was a struggle. We would wake up 4:00 in the morning. And as a kid, I was there at 4:30 in the morning with my mom, and we didn't leave until 11 o'clock at night, and my dad worked his ass off, just to barely make it, and the struggles you went through. And I saw it all. I was in the back, always playing Nintendo in the back, and I would listen and see stuff and all the crap that you had to deal with, and late deliveries, food not being delivered in time, people breaking in, and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of understood the restaurant business. I thought, well, maybe I can do something like that. But I'm glad I didn't. I ended up seeing a guy with a pole in the back of his truck, and that's what got me thinking into the pole industry. So anyways, I just wanted to say that.
And with the donut shops, you really can't grow, but it's like you were saying, it's, you look at all these different points and startup costs and all that kind of stuff. And sure, you can go out and own, a donut shop chain and, open up multiple locations. But when you're starting in the business, you look at all these different aspects and how much is it going to cost, and, startup costs and cash flow and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, to me, this is one of the ones that I've put the same model of looking at all these different points at all these different businesses, and just I can't find anything that compares to it. It's just amazing. So
landscaping landscaping could be one of them, right? But as far as like yard maintenance, but to be honest, we talk about capping out and potential, like what Zach was talking and you were talking about, is there's only so much you can do. But with the pool industry, God, you can. As far as, you're an engineer, you're a plumber, you're an electrician when it comes down to installing equipment and stuff like that. I'm sure there's some pretty elaborate sprinkling systems out there, but not quite the same. You're not putting pumps in and stuff like that. The potential is just so much higher, in the pool industry.
Yeah. And, guys, we're talking about this. We're comparing these 8 points. We're not saying that. And I've talked to guys that have done this where they jumped in. They had heard about the pool business. Somebody told them it was a great idea. They looked at the numbers and they bought this big, huge route with 4 employees with 0 experience. And then they had a really hard time because there are certain things in the pool industry that you need to do. And obviously you need to show up, right? You don't show up in the middle of the summer for a week and your pool's going to turn green. You have to learn how to be able to treat, that pool and be able to maintain it properly. But when you look at the overall picture, it really is kind of a no-brainer putting all these things put together. And the next one that I want to talk about that is humongous to me, and John, we've talked about this, and I know that you agree with me 100% on this, and really is, how will my business stand against a recession?
Or a pandemic.
And yes, this is huge, guys. This is probably one of the most solid things that I found about our industry. And so I was worried back in 2008, 2009 recession. And it was probably one of the worst recessions that we've had. But like you're saying, John, let's talk about 2020. Yeah. Who would have thought that it would be one of the greatest years for our industry?
Oh, right. I look at the beginning of the year when it started happening, I had so many phone calls, and we were going back and forth with all these other pool owners going, oh my God, when is it going to hit? Are we going to start losing clients? Are they going to fire us? Are they going to, say they can't pay their bills anymore? Or, Are they going to start doing it themselves? And, that was the worry. Everybody. And I'm not saying that nobody went through that struggle. Okay. I'm just saying in my circle or my little bubble, I have not one pool company that I know of, and I know quite a few of them that struggled or did not have a successful year or got through it, without having to worry about, paying their bills. So we were blessed. It's just unbelievable where, people started spending time at home and they're looking at their backyard. And if anything, they just appreciated what we did for them that much more. And they appreciated what that pool offered them and for their family, and like a little safe haven away from the craziness that was going around. And they wanted to spend more time working on it and making sure it was beautiful. So I think the right companies flourished during this time. And I know there's a lot of other industries and businesses, and bless the restaurants and all the other companies that struggled through it, and I wish them the best of 2021. But, for us as an industry, it was probably the best year ever, in ever as an industry. It was just amazing.
I am going to agree with you 1,000,000%, because this has been probably the best thing that could have happened to the pool industry, because you're constantly listening to, we need to better our industry. We need to be more professional. We need to be this. But I think a lot of homeowners were just kind of treating their pool as, there's just a hole in the backyard with water and stuff like that, because they weren't constantly using it. It's kind of nice to have a pool in your backyard. But when it all of a sudden becomes your point of focus every day because that's all your kids could do every day. And people are going crazy trying to build pools. And guys, over where I'm at, a regular pool is about $60,000. A pool and a spa combo is $75,000 to $85,000. I just saw somebody sent me a message, and the building is still going crazy into 2021. Yeah, right?
People change from pool owners to pool users. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and, sure. and here's the thing is they start using the pools, and then it's like what you were saying and other times that we've talked, John, is now people are really kind of putting the focus on that pool and wanting the best product for those pools. Yeah. Where before it was like, yeah, the pump, or oh yeah, the heater, but now they're using it all the time. And then you start to be able to talk about other things like UV and ozone and educate your customer, and they want that because now they're obviously continuously using that. But when I look back at 2008, 2009, I was really worried about it. I said, great, we're going to, lose. And the one thing that I learned is that a lot of people would cut other things first before they even thought about cutting the pool guy. And I did have a couple of accounts that they let me go. And within a month, they called me back because their pool was green.
Yeah, right.
And I think it's just one of those things that obviously you look at what you were saying, John, with regards to, landscaping. And yes, I can go and get a lawnmower and cut and edge and stuff. I choose not to, right? Because I don't want to. But the pool, it requires knowledge. And we all know this because we've all dealt with pools and we deal with water chemistry. And it's, we have to learn and we have to do all that kind of stuff. So the first moment that the customer's like, oh, I just need to add a little bit of chlorine, a little bit of acid, and all of a sudden the thing flips green. And even though it's kind of within the range and they're like, oh my God, what's going on? They go, we can't do this.
Yeah, and they learn a hard lesson that it cost them as much now to fix it than it would have been, to keep you on for a year.
I was just going to say, my big question on it is this fad because of the current situation? Will they go back to pool owners? Or will they, have that much more appreciation for the time around the pool? They were forced to use it, forced to enjoy it. Will they find more enjoyment out of it and continue to be pool users versus pool owners? I mean, and only time will be able to tell that. But I mean, this could have long lasting effects, or it could, be something that this year last year and now this year, we see this massive growth in accounts and repairs as people want to put in the variable speed pumps and all that stuff. But we also have to be cautious of that. You don't want to go out while it's going good and, run yourself thin. You want to, plan for some sort of stabilization and just make sure that you're cautious of that.
I think you have to be very, cautious because every industry, every business changes. And so you kind of have to be prepared and kind of look at those things as you plan to move ahead. But if you look at how well our industry does against a recession, it's a very solid industry and is really kind of almost like recession proof. And I wouldn't say 100% recession proof, but compared to other businesses, it really is a business that's, recession proof.
Yeah, like you just said, you can't, at first looks like, oh, I can take care of that pool. But the reality is if you don't know what you're doing, it'll show real quick and it'll cost you a lot of money in the long run. So as far as other things people can cut off, housekeepers, people that are cleaning their homes or mobile car washing or getting their car washed or like landscaping, you can cut your grass. It might not look great or you might not know what's going on, but as far as the pool, that can get nasty pretty quick. Homeowners learn that the hard way too often, and they get a newfound respect for it, and they kind of understand that, hey, look, because we had a couple issues when we first started with the COVID, and I had a few clients that were like, John, I can't make it, I'm not going to be able to do it, and what can you do to help? And we did a couple things to help them, and we kept them on board. But other than that, I think they have. It's like one of the last services to cut as far as, I don't think that it's going to be a point where they'll never cut us because when push comes to shove, you got to put food on the table. Right. And if you need to empty that pool and fill it with dirt just so you can put food on the table, that's what the hell I'm going to do. So, but we've been lucky, and through like the recession, like you said, in 2008, 2009, and now through this pandemic, I think if anything, it's a perfect opportunity for us to just be thankful for what we got and make the most out of it.
Yeah. And I think, guys, you look at this time, and even with what Zach's saying is, really kind of how long is this going to last? I think this is a perfect time, and what we've been talking about, which is for you pool guys and pool girls out there, is really to dig deep into your business and set up your business, like what John says, and become a premier service company. Provide that professionalism, provide that, and do it now that the industry is even hotter than it's ever been, right? Because it's going to give you that bigger advantage to build your business, build it the right way. And then even as things start to slow down again, now you've already established yourself as that big, premier service company. I think these are all the main reasons why our industry is a great industry. And I saw that Mama put on the notes on there. She said one of the things that she likes is she likes to be outside, and she likes that it's flexible. And I think that's another solid point, is that, you really can set your business up to, where you do just residential Monday through Friday, and that's it, right? You're going to have a lot of weekends off and stuff like that. It's going to allow you, what it did to me is I was able to pick up my kids from school every day. And that was huge for me because I came from an industry where I wasn't even home. I was out of state most of the time. So that's another great point with regards to, our industry. I'm going to say it again. I think it's the right time for every pool guy and pool girl out there to take advantage of these times and step up the game. I know that there's a stigma about being pool guys, but you guys will hear me say this all the time. And that is that numbers don't lie. And if you look at them for our industry, they don't lie. It's a great industry to be in. And, look at what John was saying with regards to the profit percentage in retails and stuff like that. And so if you have to pick a business, it's definitely a great business. John, Zach, let's take a quick word from our sponsors. And when we come back, I want to ask you this time what you were grateful for in 2020.
The sound of you continually pitching pool care poles into the trash. The sound of you using an Ultimate Pool Tools carbon fiber pool care pole for years to come. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools.
All right, guys, we're back. We are talking about the 8+ reasons why our industry is such a great industry. John, Zach, let me get your thoughts. Zach, let me hear what you were thankful for in 2020, even though it was a crazy year.
Well, as always, I'm thankful for the support of my wife and my family and friends. And, I don't give Leslie as much credit as she deserves because she manages our family single-handedly because I'm always working. And on top of that, she works within our company Monday through Friday. Every day she's here working to help us to continue grow our company. And I'm super thankful for our team and the way that they stepped up in 2020. It's a crazy year. It was extremely hectic and busy. And there's no way we could have survived without everyone. And I know for them, when this was all going down and the pandemic was hitting and there was a lot of unknowns and there were a lot of guidelines on how, lockdowns are going to go and how businesses should handle it. I know it was very scary for them as well. So I'm very thankful for the team and just the way that they, stepped up and continue to stick with us. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to be a part of the Pool Nation, and I'm thankful for your guys' friendship and all of the support we've received from everyone. It means a ton to me. And, the last thing I'm going to say is I am just so happy that it's 2021. And I stayed up till midnight last night, and I don't do that on New Year's just because I wanted to watch this year go away. And, hopefully this year will be a little less hectic.
John.
Real simple. My wife, my life, my family, and my friends. So, and just what Zach said too, I'm very, very thankful that our relationship has grown. Edgar and Zach, you guys have been a blessing in our lives, and I really appreciate being a part of this Pool Nation and what we're trying to accomplish, and having you guys with the same common goals, that I've been trying to do, or I'm trying to accomplish also, and it's just great to be a part of it. And I want to say thank you, and thank you to everybody out there that's supporting us, and even those that aren't. I'm looking forward to 2021. Definitely, I'm glad 2020 is over with.
I'm going to agree. I'm excited that 2020 is gone, and John, we were talking about it because we got daughters that are in high school and haven't been able to go to high school in their senior year. So I think 2020 has really impacted a lot of people in a lot of crazy ways that we never thought. So same thing, Zach. I was excited last night when 2020 was gone, even if it's just the number is gone, right? I don't think this year I'm going to make the mistake to write 2020 on anything when I write the date. I think I'm past that. I'm going to be 2021 for sure. I'm never going to forget that. I'm really thankful, for my family, some definite, up and downs over the years with my daughter and her getting better. And so 2020 really kind of, made us all take a back seat and kind of sit back and really realize how lucky we are in a lot of areas. So 2020, goodbye. We're glad to see you go. I'm definitely glad for all the friendships. As you get older, you start to your priorities and what's important starts to change, and you kind of start to hit that where it's more important to enjoy the friendships that you make along the way. So I want to thank you, Zach, John, for your friendship. It's so far it's been a great ride, and I think it's going to be even better in 2021. So I really appreciate your friendship. I appreciate every single follower, every person that messages us, and whether it's, the simple questions to the big questions to the, hey, you guys did a good job, all those people that support us. I really appreciate you. And every time that we get a message, we always share it between each other because it means a lot to us. So we appreciate you guys and your listeners out there. So guys, as usual, we are out of time. We will catch you guys next week.
Peace.
See you guys.
2020. Goodbye. You will not be missed.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation podcast. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Central, and 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or poolnationpodcast.com or Instagram at pool.nation.